Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a huge challenge for a lot of security leaders, walking into the boardroom. We're going to flip the script on how you think about these meetings, moving away from just a dry report and towards a conversation that's powerful and, honestly, way more effective.
Okay, I just love this opening line because it completely reframes the whole thing. You don't present to the board, you perform. What does that even mean, right? It's not about being fake, it's about understanding that the boardroom is a totally different kind of arena, where the normal rules of a technical deep dive just don't apply. And let's be super clear about this. When we say performance, we're not talking about putting on a Broadway show. It's not about theatrics. In this context, a performance is really a demonstration. It's a test of your leadership. The board is watching to see your judgment, your clarity, and your confidence. They want to know how you think, how you set priorities, and bottom line, are you really in control of the organization's risk?
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll talk about why the boardroom is a stage. Then, we'll get into the common traps that even the best leaders fall into. After that, we'll uncover what your board actually wants to hear from you. And to wrap it up, we'll give you a brand new playbook to help you nail your next board meeting.
All right, first up, the boardroom is a stage. This is the big mindset shift you've got to make. You're not just walking in to give a status update. Every single time you're in that room, you're there to prove you're a credible leader who can manage risk and uncertainty.
Look, the absolute key here is to fight that urge. You know the one. They just dump a ton of data on them. They already assume you have all the data. What they're desperately looking for is your judgment. Can you wrangle all that complexity and boil it down to a few crystal clear strategic insights? That right there is the real test.
And trust me on this, behind every single slide you show, behind every metric you share, the board members are all asking themselves one simple, powerful question. Is this leader in control? They're not trying to figure out the nitty-gritty of your vulnerability scores. They're trying to figure out if you're the one who can actually steer this ship.
So, if the goal is to project judgment and control, why do so many really smart technical leaders totally bomb in the boardroom? Well, it's usually because they stumble into these super common and honestly totally avoidable traps that just kill their credibility.
It usually boils down to one of three things. First, getting way too deep in the technical weeds instead of staying focused on the strategic big picture. Second, sharing a bunch of metrics that, frankly, are meaningless to the business. And third, and this one's a little ironic, trying to paint this perfect picture of total, unshakable control.
Oh man, this first trap is a classic. You and your team live and breathe this stuff every day, so it feels natural to lead with it. But the second you put a complex architecture diagram in front of a board member who spent their career in finance, their eyes just glaze over. They can't connect it to business risk. And worse, they start to wonder if you can.
All right, trap number 2, metrics that mean absolutely nothing to them. We've all seen these slides, right? Packed with numbers. 95% patch compliance. Sounds amazing, but a director is immediately thinking, okay, but what about that other 5%? Are those our most critical systems? These metrics show you're busy, but they don't show you're actually making the company safer. And this really gets to the heart of the matter. You've got to remember, these board members are drowning in data from every part of the business. What they are absolutely starved for is meaning. They would much rather have one or two powerful metrics that are directly tied to business risk than a dozen stats that don't tell them anything. And now, for the most counterintuitive trap of all. This one's a little tricky, so stick with me. A lot of leaders think that if they project this image of perfection and total control, it builds confidence. But here's the thing. Experienced directors know that cybersecurity is a messy, unpredictable world. So if you never admit to any weaknesses, they don't see you as perfect. They see you as naive. Or worse, that you have massive blind spots you don't even know about.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on what not to do, so now let's flip the script. What does the board actually want to hear from you? And look, this isn't some big secret. They're just looking for answers to 3 fundamental questions that are always on their minds.
First things first, and this one is huge. Can you cut through all the noise and clearly state the 2 or 3 cyber risks that truly matter most to the business? And this is the important part. Can you say it in plain, simple English that someone in finance or marketing can immediately understand?
So instead of giving them this huge list of technical threats, just imagine saying something like this. You see? It's specific, it's tied directly to the business, customer-facing services, and it's realistic. It acknowledges where you are without getting lost in jargon. That is what a credible, confident leader sounds like.
And here's the really cool part. When you talk like that, the board hears so much more than just your words. Yeah, they hear credential compromise, sure, but what they're really hearing is clarity, prioritization, and realism. In other words, they're hearing that you have leadership maturity.
Okay, the second question they're asking, maybe without saying it out loud, is all about being real. The board does not expect you to be perfect. What they expect is that you have your eyes wide open. Acknowledging a weakness, especially when you have a clear plan to deal with it, builds so much more trust than pretending everything's perfect.
And that brings us to question number 3, which honestly might be the most important of all. Can you connect everything your security program is doing to the actual strategic decisions the board has to make? We're talking about investment, about what level of risk is acceptable, and about how security can actually help the business move forward.
And let me tell you, when you can nail that last question, it changes everything. You stop being just a technical reporter who comes in once a quarter and become a trusted strategic advisor. You're not just there to present data anymore, you're there to help the board make smarter, better decisions for the entire company.
Okay, so we know what they want. Now what do we do about it? Let's build your new playbook, a simple 3-step guide to not just surviving that meeting, but to absolutely owning that room.
The CISOs who consistently nail this, they follow a really simple process. Before they even think about opening PowerPoint, they start with the story. First, they figure out the just three, most important things they need the board to walk away with. Second, they translate every single data point into a business implication. And third, they get ready for the real questions that are definitely going to come their way.
And here's a perfect real-world example of what that translation looks like. Instead of the first one, which is an activity metric, you say the second one. See the difference? One is about what you did. The other is about what it means for the business. The board doesn't just hear activity, they hear impact.
And last but not least, step 3 is all about prepping for what happens after you're done with your slides, the Q&A. The board will always have questions, and they're usually just different versions of these 4. Now, these aren't traps, they're opportunities. They are literally giving you a chance to prove how strategic you are, so be ready for them.
So, that brings us right back to where we started. The next time you're getting ready to walk into that boardroom, just ask yourself this one simple question. Are you going in there to give a report, or are you there to give a performance? Are you there just to share data, or are you there to demonstrate your judgment, your clarity, and your confident leadership? The choice is yours. Make it a great one.